This video talks about how to embed evidence in an informational or argumentative piece of writing that is not focused on a literary text. So this could be something more like research or where you're gathering evidence to share your opinion on something, not necessarily a literary analysis. To start with, let's look at this example to see if we can identify two of the main things that we try to do as we set up our evidence. Underlined in yellow is one of those two things. Take a second to see if you can figure out what's happening there or why that's included in the lead-in to the quote. Second is underlined in red. What you have in yellow is an attempt to identify the source and its credibility. In red is where you use a strong verb before the quote to lead into it. These are two of the main things that you really want to do when you're trying to set up evidence in an informational or argumentative text. Now, let's talk first about identifying the source and its credibility. Here's an example of a really weak example of this. In this one, I just say, one fact that supports this claim is, of all the plastic ever made, half was made in the past 15 years. Now, you'll notice you're probably really confused about whether or not you should trust this. I don't identify where it came from, who said it, why it's reliable. So let's look at what this could be instead. Now, looking at this example, I say on their website, the World Wildlife Fund, a leading group in the push for environmental reform, cites, no longer are you confused, but now you feel confident that this is information you should trust. As a writer, that is your goal. You don't want your reader feeling like they can't trust what you're saying, so you want to make sure you identify who is sharing the information and why they are a reliable source on that. Now, so we've looked at how to include the source and its credibility. The next piece that we're going to talk about is in red, using a strong verb before the quote. So what are strong verbs? Well, here are some examples of weak ones. Says, writes, states. Not that they're bad, but they're not the most insightful or specific words we could use to set up our quote. Some strong words could be asserts, infers, declares, posits, claims. It really comes down to identifying specifically what you think the writer was doing when you pulled the quote. So here's an example. Going back to that one, on their website, the World Wildlife Fund says. There's our weak verb says. What are they really doing on the website? If they have that fact on there, what they're really doing is showing us something. And so then we can think about what are other words for showing. I could think reveals, highlights, illuminates, and this gives me the opportunity to revise it. So let's go back and take our two different pieces, the credible source that we need to be including and the strong verb, and look at how we could change it. So on top, we have the weak version. On the bottom, we have the strong version, where in yellow, we're identifying the source and its credibility. And in red, we are using a strong verb to lead into the quote. That's pretty much the basics of what you need to do to set up evidence well in a nonfiction or a informational or argumentative text that is non-literary. Is you're identifying the source and its credibility and using a strong verb before the quote. Some of you might be wondering about punctuation. You'll notice there were commas, all sorts of things like that. That's going to be in the next video.